The time is now 6:38 p.m. I call this meeting to order. Welcome back to part 2 of the January Council meeting. On today's agenda, we have the election of delegates to the 2026 USA Spring General Assembly. A reminder that candidates will be given 2 minutes to present with no Q&A period. We then have the election of one counselor to the club's governance board hiring committee. Again, candidates will be given 2 minutes to present with no Q&A period. Following that, we have the council composition procedure update reminder from President Henriquez and our first counselor-driven agenda item of the year, the motion to discuss providing USC counselor one-card stickers and recognition discount, moved by Counselor Sanyalu and seconded by Counselor Abedi. Before we begin, I have some quick reminders for council. Campaigning is not permitted in USC spaces, including at council meetings, committee meetings, or within council chambers. This includes, but is not limited to, wearing campaign-related clothing or merchandise, displaying campaign materials, or actively discussing or promoting a campaign in any way during meetings. Individuals who are involved in a campaign are welcome to attend council meetings as members of the public and may sit in the gallery. However, any behavior that could reasonably be interpreted as campaigning may be considered a violation under the USC Electoral Code. I've gotten some messages about people consulting with me after January 12th. I want to remind everyone that myself and Isabella are unable to consult with anyone regarding the USC elections at this time. So if you ask, we will politely decline. Our February council schedule is pretty tight with the February reading week in the middle. So call for agenda for February is open right now and closes February 2nd at 11:59 p.m. If you need any assistance or have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Standing committees will meet between February 3rd and February 6th. If you haven't already, you'll get info from your standing committee chairs about your standing committee meeting. Regarding our 2 elections today, for the USA election, I will invite each nominee to the podium in alphabetical order of last name to deliver a 2-minute speech. There will be no Q&A period. After all nominees have given their speeches, a ballot will be sent to voting members of council. This ballot will open for 5 minutes. Again, the ballot is only open to voting members of council, and proxies cannot vote. You cannot leave the room while the ballot is open. Once the ballot closes, I will motion for a 15-minute recess. Following the recess, results will be announced and we will vote to ratify the motion. For the election of one counselor to the club's governance board hiring committee, I will ask you to raise your hand to self-nominate yourself. Following that, Isabella will create an order of speeches based on the alphabetical order of last name. I will then invite each nominee to the podium to present their 2-minute speech, and there will be no Q&A period. After all nominees have given their speeches, a ballot will be sent to the voting members of council. This ballot will be open for 3 minutes, and this ballot is only open to voting members of council, and proxies cannot vote. You cannot leave the room while the ballot is open. Once the ballot closes, I will motion for a 5-minute recess. Following the recess, results will be announced, and we will vote to ratify the motion. For our 4 information and discussion item on today's agenda, each counselor will get a maximum of 2 opportunities to speak. Counselors can speak twice, only once we have gone through our speaking order and everyone has had the chance to speak once. If those who wish to speak reach their maximum 2 speaking times, voting members on council can motion to extend the question period. If this passes, we will restart the question period with the same rules. Anytime anyone speaks, Counselor Sanyalu will have the opportunity to respond. Before the discussion, Counselor Sanyalu and Counselor Abedi will have the opportunity to come to the podium to give some background regarding their motion. Finally, a reminder that even when we're in recess, the video recording of the meeting picks up everything you say to each other. So when we're reviewing the footage afterwards, we hear every conversation you all are having. And so the productions team has had to edit the recording to mute some of the conversations during recess. So I wanted to remind you all that the mic is always hot. So ensure that whenever you speak, even during recess, you guys all understand that we're able to hear all the conversations in the recording afterwards. So don't say stuff that you don't want us to hear. All right, that's all for me. Let's get started. Please head over to Echo 360 to log in your attendance. Counselor Wasti. 1 second, Counselor Wasti. The new code is 626991. Is anyone having any issues logging into the new Echo 360? Counselors, a reminder, please log in your attendance on Echo 360. We're still waiting on a handful of you. Moving on to our first election, the motion to elect delegates to the 2026 USA Spring General Assembly. The motion reads, whereas the Ontario Undergraduate Student Alliance is a student-led advocacy organization governed by member student associations. Whereas student delegates from each institution review and approve policy papers at USA's General Assemblies. Be it resolved that Council elect up to 9 student delegates to represent Western University at the USA Spring General Assembly 2026 in March. President Henriquez is the mover. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Lovey. Are there any questions regarding the motion? Are there any amendments regarding the motion? President Henriquez.
With apologies to our candidates, I would like to motion that we strike the elect up to 9 and amend to say elect up to 8. This is due to the fact that an additional author from the USC team has been added to the paper that the USC is responsible for authoring, and so we need to reserve an additional spot for the student author.
Can I get a seconder for President Henriquez's amendment, please? Councillor McKenzie. Are there any questions regarding the amendment? Are there any amendments regarding the amendment? Are there any points of debate regarding the amendment? Are there any objections regarding the amendment? All in favor of President Henriquez's amendment, please raise your placard. The amendment passes. Are there any more amendments to the amended motion? Are there any points of debate to the motion? Are there any objections to the motion? I will now invite each nominee to the podium in alphabetical order of last name to deliver a 2-minute speech. There will be no Q&A period. I invite Miriam Abulela to the podium to deliver their 2-minute speech.
Members of council, imagine doing everything right, taking the right courses, meeting the right requirements, only to be told that your credits simply do not transfer. Students lose time, money, and opportunities because of broken policy. This is not an individual failure. This is simply a policy one. That's why I want to represent Western at the Ontario Undergraduate Student Alliance. At USA, I want to focus on 3 main priorities that shape our students' futures: artificial intelligence, student mobility, and affordability. First is artificial intelligence. AI is already rapidly changing how we learn. Think about how many times you've thought about a question and asked ChatGPT to explain it for you. AI literacy workshops are extremely important, and that's why this year I chose to be a part of the USC Professional Development Committee, working alongside a team of 8 to plan workshops and focus on delivering AI literacy workshops to over 3,500 students at Western. Second is mobility. Credit transfer should not be a gamble. Students should not lose years of progress simply because they can't transfer single credits. And that's why I chose to focus on student mobility as the second pillar. The third pillar here is affordability. From tuition to ancillary fees, students are being priced out of education. And provincial policies directly affect this. And that's why I chose to work alongside the City of London this year to focus on exploring how the federal student visa cut affects the talent pipeline
Thank
here
you.
in
Your
London.
time is up.
Thank you.
I invite Brooklyn Beck to the podium to deliver their speech.
If you saw me in red, no you didn't. I had to change, oops. But, hi everyone, I can't even lie. I think right now I'm just gonna speak from the heart, but there was absolutely no way this year that I would not have been applying to this semester's USA conference, because the 3 topics of tuition and ancillary fees, transfer students, and quite possibly also talking about and discussing what's happening here in Canada with international students, and then also artificial intelligence. All 3 of those topics are so timely to what is being discussed within higher education now and worldwide. And as a student who is impoverished and came from a lower income background herself, I work 2 jobs right now just to get through and by. It helps that we have tuition fees being paused by the Ontario government, but not that much, because like the rest of the world, everything is rising in cost. Artificial intelligence makes it so that, well, as a student in the arts and humanities as well, it's quite hard to believe, what am I doing here if I don't really know what's going to happen in the future? And quite honestly, no one does. And so that's why here today and forevermore, I hope that I can prove to you all, through my experience of having been a second-term senator, and through just honestly having the regards through my education of a 4th-year sociology and English major, and someone who just really cares about these issues, can come up here and speak to the hearts of you all, and hopefully we can inspire something to happen through federal change finally in the end. But yeah, here as a senator, I've noticed a lot of these things come up, and I don't even know where to begin. Artificial intelligence makes it so that we are all just trying to find our ways by, and then through Senate floor, we're always technically discussing tuition fees, but to what cost?
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
I invite Finila Yomi Batiku to the podium to deliver their speech.
Hi Hi everyone, my name is Fini Layomi Betiku and I'm running to be an USA delegate because I believe student advocacy starts long before we're given a title. It starts by paying attention to how decisions are actually made. In my first year at Western, I quickly realized that most of the impactful factors shaping our university experience exist outside of the classroom. And it includes like tuition structures, the mandatory fees, and the cost of living pressures that don't just affect our finances, it affects our academic decisions, it affects like our own personal lives as well. And in recent years, post-secondary education has significantly changed a lot, but the cost of being a student has continued to rise in ways that are not visible as we all think it is. While tuition often dominates the conversation, the hidden costs of university life, particularly housing, increasingly determine who can fully participate in post-secondary education. These pressures don't just exist in isolation, they compound a lot and affect students that are already navigating financial pressures. This reality is what led me to my own initiative by attending the 2026 City of London budget meeting at the City Hall to better understand how public funding decisions affect students, particularly around housing, affordability, and rent. I participated in discussions raising concerns about how rising rental costs impact students' academic stability and asked how student input is incorporated into long-term housing funding decisions. Being in that room, it really showed me how easily a student perspective can be overlooked unless students like ourselves speak up about that. And what draws me to USAID is work on tuition affordability, not just by tuition itself, but the full cost of being a student. My experience showed me that when housing and mandatory fees rise, tuition policies become even more important. And students' academic...
Thank you, your time is up.
Thanks.
I invite Aiden Bobkowicz to the podium to deliver their speech.
Can everyone hear me? All right. Yep. Okay, perfect. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to all of my fellow councillors for hearing me today. I intend to provide my background qualifications as an USA delegate by dividing my speech into the three categories that will be brought up for this conference, starting with tuition, auxiliary, and incidental fees. Having lived here for the last 3 years as an out-of-province student, I've experienced what it is like to navigate myself through a field of fees, some of which made sense, while others not so much. In addition to this, I have witnessed firsthand some of the financial struggles associated with both domestic and international students in regards to food, housing, and personal counseling. Having been the VPSA of the KUCSC, I have vouched to address any and all student concerns, including financial ones. Whether it be through the KUCSC's food locker service and the recently adopted Christina's Closet, or through the coordination of our counseling and campus ministry channels on King's campus. Under the guise of my current position, I have attempted to promote, revamp, and have the King's community utilize such services made by and for students. Artificial intelligence. With 3 years of experience on the USC and KUCSC, I have greatly strengthened my ability to critically think, discuss, and debate, and most importantly, formulate good policy. As you may know, with the recent rise of AI ads brought forth by King's, it has allowed us as students to open our minds to what we as students, prospect students, faculty, and admin can determine as an appropriate use of AI. Having encountered some of these demographics in a professional manner, I have accumulated good reasons to attribute to the benefits and risks of using AI under various lenses. Student mobility and credit transfer. Having studied in Quebec prior to Western, I'm very familiar with the use and possible misappropriations of credits, leading to an increase in overall fees and in the prolongation of one's degree. As one who unfortunately fell victim to this, I can provide personal insight for students willing to study in the province of Ontario. As a final remark, I'd like to end this speech by referencing Section 6 of the Supreme Court Act, stating that 3 of the 9 Supreme Court justices must be from Quebec. Though I may not be Ontarian, by recognizing the common and civil law systems in Canada, we can encourage a more national policy approach, accommodating to all Canadians.
I invite Daniel Cruz to the podium to deliver their speech.
Good evening, university student counselors and speakers and vice presidents. My name is Daniel Cruz. I'm a first-year health science student. Thank you all for hearing me speak today. It is an honor to represent 30,647-ish of among these 160,000 at USA this year. I would like to begin this by addressing one of the concerns that started at the beginning of this year. There was an open letter written about the concerns of Bill 33 at the beginning of the fall term, called the Supporting Children and Students Act of 2025, where there were concerns about intentionally undermining and overgeneralizing student supports that exist here at Western, and that leaves students out of the equation when coming to suggestions and regulating student voice. So the possibility of being overridden in decisions became quite real reality. My delegation will involve fighting for a consensus while respecting the autonomy of student groups like USC and our counterparts at other universities. And even amongst our lives differing amongst different campuses and our affiliates, I think that this is a concern that Western has a great perspective of sharing as well. In representing USC as a delegate, I will represent the autonomy to infer our own decisions because we are students, are for students, by students. And this is repeatable for all policy papers, especially on artificial intelligence papers, how we develop to address a plan on the inequity and develop a framework governed by ethics and autonomy, and most certainly AI education. As a person who's published a paper to a scientific journal about the clinical utility of AI, I believe that there's utility here in the student council and as well as for each student. So this leads to a larger conversation about AI and those conversations that we've yet to have. So I would like to be a part of that, and I hope that in my nomination to be one of those representatives, I'd represent it well. Thank you very much.
I invite Shreya Goyal to the podium to deliver their speech.
Hello everyone, my name is Shreya and I'm running to be your USA delegate because the challenges the students face today go far beyond the classroom. As someone who's also running for Board of Governors, I believe students require strong, informed, and compassionate advocacy at the provincial level. When I heard the 3 topics for this year's meeting, I had to run for USA. The AI, tuition, and salary fees, and international students are all so near heart to me. A growing provincial issue right now is the rapid expansion of artificial intelligence in education. As a first-year student, I'm directly navigating unclear AI policies, inconsistent academic integrity rules, and unequal access to these tools across courses. The first pillar of my platform would be housing affordability and cost of living. Students are paying upwards of $15,000 a year just to secure a clean, safe, livable apartment. That doesn't include groceries, utilities, transportation, or tuition. For students living paycheck to paycheck or relying on family, those costs alone make staying in school simply difficult. My second pillar focuses on transportation, weather, and accessibilities. In cities like London, especially during the winter, students deal with unreliable buses, unsalted roads, and unsafe working conditions. It becomes generally dangerous to commute, and even harder for students who have disabilities or long travel times. Climate change isn't abstract. It shows up as missed buses, late classes, and inaccessible campuses. These are infrastructure issues that require provincial level action. My third pillar is food insecurity, student well-being, and equity. I know many students, including myself, who struggle to access consistent, proper meals. For students with dietary restrictions, such as being vegetarian, celiac, or having allergies, finding edible food, especially in residence, is extremely hard. Being VP Finance of Essex Hall, I hear daily about how inedible the food can get on residents. Often you're lucky for one decent meal a week. I also know firsthand how isolating transitions can be. As someone moving from Alberta to Ontario, I experienced bullying, harassment, and a serious decline in my mental health moving to Western. Too many out-of-province and international students are expected to adjust without adequate support.
Thank you, your time is up.
Thank you.
I invite Aliyah Joku to the podium to deliver their speech.
Hi everyone, my name is Aliyah and I'm running to serve as a returning USA delegate. I'm seeking this role because my commitment to student advocacy is both personal and deeply rooted in my leadership experience. When my father came to Canada as a refugee, he excelled academically, but many of his credits were deemed non-transferable. Despite his ability, he was forced to repeat coursework, and over time, the barriers led him to leave his degree unfinished. That experience showed me how policies around credit transfer and student mobility can shape or limit a student's entire future. At Western, I see similar barriers with tuition. As a residence don, I support students managing financial stress and balancing part-time work with full course loads simply to afford their education. These experiences reinforce my belief that post-secondary institutions should be sustained through strong public funding rather than relying primarily on students' ability to pay. I bring experience not only as a student advocate, but as someone who understands governance and USA itself. I've served 3 years as a Schulich Senator and now chair, where I lead and support undergraduate representatives in shaping academic policy and university planning. As a previous USA delegate, I was an engaged and critical thinker and was able to identify gaps in institutions to recommend policies such as a mandated governance and EDI training for all governing bodies at institutions. Beyond academic policy, I also understand how funding decisions affect student life beyond the classroom. My involvement in the USC club space, including 3 years as a UNICEF executive, has shown me how essential auxiliary fees are in sustaining campus community, and how broad opt-out models can threaten that stability. As a delegate, I will bring an equity lens, governance experience, and most importantly, the passion to turn student experiences into evidence-informed policy change. My leadership has been recognized through the Faculty of Science Leadership and Initiative Award, and my work as a research intern with the Schulich School of Medicine has strengthened my ability to analyze evidence and communicate clearly. Thank you.
I invite David Liu to the podium to deliver their speech. Once again, I invite David Liu to the podium to deliver their speech. Moving on to the next, I invite Braden Lovey to the podium to deliver their speech.
Good evening, Council. My name is Braden Lovey, and I am privileged to be standing before you today to be applying for the upcoming USA General Assembly's delegation. As I hope my involvement on this year's Council demonstrates, I believe strongly in the mission of the USC and have the practical and lived experience rooted in the 3 papers of this Council to effectively support our involvement at the upcoming General Assembly. As an affiliate student, I have lived and paid for unique tuition and ancillary fees. Moreover, in the advent of Bill 33 and the uncertainty it has caused for student unions, it is more essential than ever that affiliated and federated university college voices are present alongside their parent institutions in provincial lobbying. As chair of the University Affairs Standing Committee and senator representing Kings, I understand the myriad of services the USC and the university provide and how any disruptions in tuition funding can disenfranchise our mission and the student experience we represent. Lastly, as president of KUCSC, through my involvement on King's Teaching and Learning Subcommittee, I brought essential student perspective to King's first draft framework on the usage of AI, identifying practical use cases for students and avoiding paternalism from faculty in its usage. I am confident these qualities, alongside my career in student government, make me an ideal candidate. I am excited for the opportunity to meet with other student unions, engage, discuss, listen, and learn across constituencies how we can best help students capitalize on their power to change the world. Thank you.
I will now play Ryan Malabanen's speech, which he sent to council for us to view.
Hey everyone, sorry I couldn't be there in person today. I had something come up, but still just really super excited to briefly explain why I'm interested in being part of USC's Western delegation this semester. For those of you I haven't met yet, my name's Ryan, and maybe just for some context, currently in my 3rd year studying business. Not too long ago, actually, I was sitting where you are now as a counselor, and for me, that experience is a big part of why I care so much about student advocacy, and also why I'm hoping to serve as an USC delegate this March. My advocacy journey actually started at the provincial level on the Education Minister Student Advisory Council in Manitoba back when I was in high school. And there I represented K through 12 students and contributed to a lot of different policy discussions, really shaping the education system at the time. But that was really my first time seeing how student voices could really influence real decisions. And it's what pushed me to stay involved in that kind of student governance when I came to Western. So since then, I served as a first-year rep when I was in first year on SSC, USC Council last year, and also actually chaired the Governance and Finance Committee, and really wanted to be able to bring those experiences to USA to be able to contribute to policies that I really think do shape the post-secondary landscape for many students here across Ontario. And so my experiences, I think, really connect closely to USA's priorities as I've navigated credit transfer myself. So I really understand the importance of what that looks like in terms of student mobility and clear pathways. And through the committee as well last year, I've engaged in a lot of conversations about tuition, funding, and how costs kind of affect accessibility. And as a Don myself, I've really seen firsthand the barriers that face students beyond the classroom. But overall, I think beyond these areas, my broader advocacy experience as a counselor, as a chair, and other student government work really has developed my skills in policy analysis. And at the end of the day, really think it's important that good advocacy is collaborative, informed, and grounded in real student experiences. So overall, I just feel like my experiences, passion, and commitment to advocacy really make me well-rounded to be able to represent Western and contribute to USA this March. Thank you.
I invite Ramiz Mufti to the podium to deliver their speech.
So, my name is Ramiz Mufti. I want to be part of the USA delegation. Now, I thought it was specifically on certain papers. So my focus and my background is in AI, and so that's why I'm going to be focusing this speech on AI. What I've seen recently is that there's a lot of impacts within the field of AI with our education system. What we're seeing is misuse, academic integrity being unfollowed, and what I want to do is build regulations upon that. Issues around AI arise for one reason only: lack of regulation. Due to lack of regulation, we see our education system falter. How exactly? Well, it's being exploited, it's being misused, and what we need to do is build a symbiotic relationship with AI itself. I am currently working with a professor in AI ethics around polarization, and what we are seeing is that it's causing harm in education and social lives. The more deregulated technology becomes, the more echo chambers are being made. We're seeing more fake news, we're seeing biases, and we're seeing a lack of critical thinking within our students. Collectively, these issues demonstrate why governing bodies must take action on regulations within AI itself. My goal as a USA delegate is to leverage my technical background as well as my critical thinking skills to advocate for responsible regulations governing the use of AI in academic communities, ensuring that innovation is balanced between safety, ethical use, and equity for all students. Thank you.
I will now play Zara Nadim's speech, which he sent to council.
I remember sitting in my boss's office the summer before university, talking about how drastically international tuition had increased since she was a student. At the time, it felt like one of those conversations you listen to but don't fully understand yet. 3 years as a Western student, and I've come to see the effects of tuition and funding firsthand. I'm sure we've all seen how OSAP funding continues to be cut, caps on international students, and Ontario continuing to have the least per-student funding in the country. When public funding falls short, students are the ones who end up carrying the burden. We've seen this at Senate through discontinued programs at Western, ethically controversial partnerships like Navitas, and the closure of long-standing spaces that students have relied on for years. Beyond tuition, many of us in professional programs face additional costs, where students in my program have spent thousands traveling across cities for unpaid placements, certifications, and required medical equipment. These costs aren't disclosed to us upfront, and this creates barriers for students who rely on advanced planning or financial aid, and emphasizes the importance of transparency around the total cost of attendance. Administrative structures further increase these challenges. Students waiting for third-party funding like band funding, employer sponsorship, or RESP disbursements still face late fees or enrollment holds. I'm looking to serve as an USA delegate because I have seen how these policy papers translate into campus-level impacts on student services and program sustainability. On the Senate Review Board academic, I've seen how unclear standards around AI have created uncertainty for students. And at the provincial level, I've spent the past year contributing to the revision of a restraints policy paper that will go on to affect clinical education. Ultimately, I'm looking to run because Ontario's post-secondary system cannot remain student-funded without student-driven input.
I invite Anaya Tawar to the podium to deliver their speech.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Anaya, and I'm a second-year synthetic bio and English lit major, as well as the research advocacy coordinator on the Arts and Humanities Student Council. I am sick and tired of professors making me spend $200 on textbooks that they themselves have written and having them worth 10% of my grade. With that said, academics aside, I dance with many teams on campus and recently went to a national dance competition with the Advaya dance team. During this experience, I spent over $500, an amount of money that other sports teams do not. Even though I trained for at least 6 hours every day for months on top of my classes, my sport was still not considered sporty enough to be varsity by the university. And I know you guys have seen us practicing in the UCC basement. But it's not just me. Many dance teams at other universities are also not considered varsity, but those that are have a significant advantage at competitions. To add insult to the injury, this was on top of the 94.13 mandatory ancillary sport fee to support other student athletes who also still carry the weight of out-of-pocket costs, such as apparel that are not immediately made clear to them or standardized across the province. The issue of what makes an ancillary fee versus an incidental fee affects us and our peers every single day. Clare Hall used to have a shuttle stop, and now it doesn't. And that disproportionately affects students with asthma, mobility challenges, and other accessibility needs. The shuttle stop should be an ancillary fee and not an incidental fee, by the way, even if people are willing to pay for it. Furthermore, as of 2020 to 2021, the provincial government has contributed 30% to the university's finances, while students have shouldered the brunt with 60%, which is double the government's share. Then, that brings me to my last point. Student-sponsored endowment funds should not be one of the primary sources of reliance for post-secondary institutions, as they are categorized as long-term investments. Relying on them to patch funding gaps is inherently unsustainable and places even more pressure on students who are already dealing with debt.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you.
I invite Camila Tynes McKenzie to the podium to deliver their speech.
Before I talk about policy, I want to talk about people. Because at the end of the day, USA isn't just about papers or positions, it's about making sure students feel represented and supported in systems that are often confusing and overwhelming. Good evening, everyone. My name is Camila Tynes McKenzie. I'm a third-year student studying biology and biochemistry, and previously serving as the Indigenous USA delegate, I am returning as a candidate with clear priorities and a stronger understanding of what effective student advocacy looks like. Last semester, I didn't take this role lightly. I took the time to speak with students and student support professionals from the Indigenous Student Center and made a conscious effort to bring forward not only my experiences, but the voices of others in my community. That approach, to listen, consult, and advocate with intention, is exactly what I intend to continue today. As VP Academics of the Science Student Council, I've seen two sides of the growing conversations around artificial intelligence. Our science and medical science deans actively navigating ethical concerns, while students are increasingly relying on AI as a learning tool. As USA delegate, I plan to take advantage of this perspective to help ensure we approach this conversation with both ethical responsibility and student realities in mind. Additionally, my experience as a previous REA has shown me how many students struggle with ancillary fees and credit transfer, especially during their transition into university. These conversations reinforce the need for clear communication and transparency, something I'm committed to advocating for at the provincial level. To conclude, with every opportunity I've been fortunate to be a part of, I've made this conscious effort to listen, learn, and understand the diverse perspectives and challenges students face. Whether through conversations with first years or department chairs, I've learned the importance of bridging lived student experiences with institutional decision making. The commitment of thoughtful and informed advocacy is what I would bring to represent us, the Western student community. Thank you.
I invite Hamza Wasti to the podium to deliver their speech.
Hello, everybody. I'm currently a King student, but I did transfer here. I did transfer over, and while the application was perhaps easy to start, post-application process is quite confusing. There was quite some guesswork of understanding course equivalence and whatnot. And mind you, this transfer was through an existing agreement through the college and the university. There are still many pathways that exist today where there is no clear agreement, which makes it quite hard to upgrade. In my case, there was an agreement, and it was in a similar field, which you would think it'd make it very clear and not confusing. But knowing what transfers, what equals what, and just understanding also what else can I do? Can I do another major, a minor? That's not told to me beforehand. That's something I have to figure out right when I join the university. Additionally, when we're talking about AI, the AI stance is very important, as USA has been waiting to do the stance as I have previously tried to introduce something regarding AI. It was dismissed as there was no current stance. So AI is important to use as a tool in terms of learning, but also not to be, to use as a tool and to perhaps allow policy to not be discriminated against students of color. So thank you.
I will now play Noah Zabian's speech, which he sent to council.
Hey everyone, it's Noah here. Super sorry I'm not here to be in person. You guys know how it's my favorite pastime to come to these things, but at the time you're seeing this, I'll be at a very important meeting that I cannot miss, unfortunately. But yeah, just to introduce myself, my name is Noah Zabian. I'm a fifth-year medical sciences student, and I'm also your representative on Western's Senate and Board of Governors. And just as a refresher, those are Western's two bodies that have control over academic and institutional policy. And I think those experiences are very relevant, especially when you look at these upcoming papers. If you look at the paper that goes over the ancillary fees policy, that's so important, especially now that Bill 33 has gone into law. On the board, I've seen how we've interpreted legislation and turned that into actual Western policy. So I believe that perspective will be very valuable to USA. It's very important that in the context of Bill 33, now that the USC revenue can be affected, faculty council's revenues can be affected, that we have to have a very strong advocacy standpoint to make sure that the province implements the best interpretation of the policy, and that is conveyed to universities in such a manner that they also incorporate the policy that is of the best benefit for students. If you also look at the AI papers sitting on Western's Academic Senate, this is also something that I've a lot of experience advocating for. I've had many conversations and many meetings about making sure that students aren't unfairly blamed or accused of using AI for projects. I mean, this is a very important opportunity, important technology, but we're all still learning how to utilize it. And I think that's another thing that my experiences will allow to add to this paper and add to the delegation.
Let's give a round of applause to all the candidates and their speeches. Dane will now post the ballot on the January meeting agenda and on Slack. The ballot is only open to voting members of council. Proxies cannot vote. A reminder that this ballot will be open for 5 minutes. You cannot leave the room while the ballot is open. I will announce when the 5 minutes begin. Councillor Thompson.
So if I'm a proxy for somebody, I don't submit their vote, that's submitted through the form?
You just submit your own. You just submit yours.
So, like, I don't do it twice then?
No. Councillor Fody. He is no longer a candidate. To all of Councillor David Liu, who did not give a speech, will not be on the ballot. Councillors, if you are voting right now, please refrain from voting. We have to switch the ballot to take off David Luke since he did not give a speech. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Murcia. We're re-updating the form to remove a candidate. So it will take a minute. Councillor Wasti.
Are we allowed to vote for ourselves or not?
Yes, you can. Your 5 minutes to vote starts now.
We
Councillor Bobkowitz. Can we just see the candidates? Yes, of course. The polls are now closed. I am motioning for a 15-minute recess so we can tabulate the votes. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Logos-Warren. Are there any objections to the recess? We will return at 7:48 p.m. The time is now 7:48 p.m. I call this meeting back to order. The 8 delegates for the 2026 USA Spring General Assembly are Brooklyn Begg, Aiden Bobkowicz, Daniel Cruz, Aliyah Joku, Braden Lovey, Zara Nadim, Camila Tynes McKenzie, and Noah Zabian. Let's give another round of applause to all of our delegates. Please head over to Echo 360 to ratify the results and vote on the motion. Councillor Bobkowicz.
The motion says council elect up to 9 students still.
Thank you, Councillor. We're making that fix right now. We can't change it on Echo 360, but the motion was amended to have 8 delegates, for the record. No worries. The motion passes. Moving on to our next election, the motion to elect 1 counselor to the club's governance board hiring committee. The motion reads, whereas the club's governance board hiring process requires council representation on the hiring committee, and whereas council participation supports transparency and accountability in student governance hiring processes, be it resolved that council elect 1 counselor to sit on the club's governance board hiring committee for the 2026-2027 hiring cycle. President Henriquez is the mover. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Abedi. Are there any questions regarding the motion? Are there any amendments regarding the motion? Are there any points of debate regarding the motion? If you would like to self-nominate for this position, please raise your placard now.
Hiring is fun.
Before I announce the results, is there anyone else who would like to self-nominate themselves for the position? Councillor Bobkowitz, would you like to give a 2-minute speech?
I love clubs, I love governance, and I'm very happy to be on this board.
And the counselor on the club's governance board hiring committee is Councillor Bobkowitz. Please head to Echo 360 to ratify the results and vote on the motion. The motion passes. Moving on to our fourth information item for this evening, the council composition procedure update reminder. Once President Henriquez finishes presenting, I will ask you to raise your placards if you would like to speak. Isabella will create a speaking list. Each councillor will get a maximum of 2 opportunities to speak. Councillors can speak twice. Only once we have gone through our speaking order and everyone has had the chance to speak once. If those who wish to speak reach their maximum 2 speaking times, voting members on council can motion to extend the question period. If this passes, we will restart the question period with the same rules.
Slay. Hi, everyone. I know it's been a long day, so thanks for sticking it out. This is more of like an information update. So as you guys might remember, the following was like approved at the November council meeting. We circled it for an information update on the 6th. It was like sent in the Slack because this is the annual update to the composition procedure, which is based on enrollment numbers and projections for the 2026-2027 school year. So you've seen these numbers before, but we're happy to answer any questions. And this is particularly like relevant and timely for constituencies and faculties that run their own USC elections. And this is just a reminder that like, if you need support with like the by-elections, please make sure that the next team knows that those must be communicated prior to September, because that's when the elections calendar is published. We need to know like when your elections are, and if you need support so that we can onboard the counselors as appropriate. And the updated seat allocations were also circulated ahead of the January election period. So this is like currently impacting or has been taken into account for the number of counselors that we're electing in that period. So the biggest changes are that engineering and Huron have increased by 1 seat because you've exceeded the additional 1,000 student threshold, and that science has decreased by 1 seat because you've not hit that threshold for your, what is it, your 8th counselor? Your 7th counselor. No, it was your 8th counselor, now you have 7, including the president. But yeah, that's the update, an update that you've heard 3 times already. So if you have any questions, let me know, but if not, then it's your turn.
Are there any questions? Please raise your placard. Thank you, President Enriquez. Moving on to our discussion item, the motion to discuss providing USC Counselor one-card stickers and recognition discount. I will read the proposed motion in full. A reminder, we are not voting on this item. We are only discussing it. After I read the proposed motion, I will invite Counselor Sanyalu and Counselor Abedi to the podium to discuss the motion. Following that, I will ask you to raise your placards if you'd like to speak, and the same rules apply for our speaking order. The motion reads, whereas there is currently no standardized identification or recognition mechanism for faculty counselors within the University Student Council of the University of Western Ontario, and whereas supporting engagement, accessibility, and sustainability in student governance is a priority of the University Student Council of the University of Western Ontario. Be it resolved that Council requests that the executive, in consultation with relevant USC operational leadership, assess the feasibility, governance considerations, and operational implications of potential non-monetary identification and recognition mechanisms for faculty counselors, and be it further resolved that the feasibility review include consideration of standardized non-monetary identification measures, parentheses such as USC Counselor one-card sticker model proposed, and parentheses, and be it further resolved that the executive report back to council with findings and recommendations, including any limitations, risks, or approvals that would be required prior to implementation. A reminder, we are not voting on this motion. This is a discussion only. I invite Councillor Sanyalu and Councillor Abedi to the podium to discuss the motion with council.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great night so far. Before I get into this, Eng Ivy is happening tomorrow, so if you haven't bought your tickets already, please buy them. It's going to be a great game. And also, make sure you register for Pathways in Politics. It's happening this Saturday. It's a great event. Omar will be hosting. Okay. Yeah, honestly, my motion in review, I felt like as counselors, we give a lot. We have our committee meetings that we attend monthly, USC meetings that we attend, sometimes bi-monthly, sometimes once a month, as well as our faculty meetings that we attend. And after all of this, I thought to myself, could there be something that would make this a little more incentivizing for counselors? Currently, coordinators receive a sticker that they have on their one card that provides them a 15% discount at the Spoke. I'm not sure it applies at the Cove, but it applies at the Spoke. And it's something that I'm like, you know what are the chances that this is possible? Over my consultations with many counselors, I consulted Kat, I consulted many people. I feel like it had the potential. I didn't want to pass it as like a voting item because I wanted to get everyone's opinion. We're all counselors. This affects all of us, holistically speaking. So, yeah, honestly, counselors represent many students. Our job is voluntary. It's not a paid role. I don't think we deserve a salary, but an honorarium or a discount, a sticker, it'd be nice. I talked with Kat. There are many reasons why it's unfeasible. I understand that. I guess it's a conflict of interest at the end of the day. But bringing this here as an information item, I'm like, what does everyone think? Is there any possibility, any suggestions that could be placed forward in order to get some sort of system in place to help incentivize future counselors? And I want Counselor Betty to finish the remainder of this point.
All
right, so good evening, everybody. My name is Mukhtar, and I will be concluding on why, there's some benefits to having this one card, discussion. We passed it as a discussion item because we wanted the opinions of everyone to be passed through. I think it's a great idea, right? There's a lot of work we do. We go through monthly meetings, our committee meetings once or twice a month, and then obviously we have our own boards and finance and the president role, right? So I wanted to kind of focus on, like, we do a lot of work, so maybe some compensation on not compensation necessarily, but more more incentive to get more people in. So we believe that a lot of the work we do is, there's a lot of work here, passing motions, reading the amendments. We have a lot of extracurriculars, a lot of schoolwork, so taking time out of our weekly life to, come and represent our people. I think there should be some more incentives. So, and when people aren't given these honorariums, it can, at times lead to burnout. It can lead to inconsistent attendance. On council, there is a relatively high turnover rate where people, due to maybe a lack of incentives or a lack of compensation, may not stick to council because they find it not feasible. So we find that maybe having some sort of promotion or some sort of incentive or compensation, not financial obviously, would not reduce that turnover rate and also would allow more people to stay in their role and feel more advocate for the role. And with that turnover rate, because there's going to be more people applying due to these maybe higher incentives, we could have better candidates. Not saying you guys aren't good enough, but better candidates, better advocacy. So having these incentives makes council more not restrictive. It pushes council to make better decisions. It holds our executives more accountable due to having more participation. Because with this incentive, people may find that they are more turned to speak because there's some more compensation coming in. I love the food, but I think maybe a 15% discount on the council. Thank you.
Yeah, any questions, please, guys? Or
if you would like to speak, please raise your placard and keep it raised. Non-voting members can also speak since we're not voting on this motion today. To confirm, those with their placards raised were Councillor Adhikari, Councillor Bobkowicz, Councillor Foti, Councillor Gandhi, Councillor Logaswaran, Councillor Powell, Councillor Thompson, and Councillor Wasti. Is there anybody else who would like to ask a question or speak? Councillor Lovey. Is there any other councillor who would like to speak? Councillor Adhikari.
Hi, David and Mukhtar. Thank you so much for bringing this forward. There was a couple discussion points that I wanted to bring up. So firstly, when we run in an election to be a counselor, we are aware of what our responsibilities are and that we're supposed to represent our constituents in this voluntary position. I know that there's a lot of other possible roles within the USC that we can pursue if we want to be paid, for example, like the USC coordinator roles. No, instead of the counselor position, you can pursue other roles.
Yeah, but as counselor, you're allowed to.
Yeah, that's correct. But I just wanted to bring that up, that there's other avenues that you can pursue in terms of leadership opportunities within the USC that are paid. And then the other concern that I wanted to bring up is one of the primary concerns listed in this motion was to increase engagement and interest around council, and really to incentivize others to continue running to ensure some kind of continuity with council. I'd like to pose this question to council in general. Do you think that this is the most effective means to bring more engagement, interest, and excitement around council? Or is there any other way that we can really bring that excitement and show and encourage others to pursue student advocacy in this capacity as a counselor? Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your question, Councilor Adhikari. While I do understand there are many opportunities that the USC provides when it comes to a monetary or a salary type of reflection of their work, looking around this room, right? Our speakers get paid. Dane gets paid. Execs get paid.
I'll trade you right now.
Okay. Right now. But the counselors who, we're also a member. We're also a member of this organization. We're also members that come to these meetings. And I feel like we're not asking for a salary. We're not asking for that. We're asking for an honorarium. It helped. It helped. It's feasibility would definitely have to be checked, but it's a motion just to explore it. I think it's a good idea. I've been told it's a dumb idea. Both things are probably true. But you know what? We're here today nonetheless. So did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Councillor Bobkowicz.
Yeah, I don't think I could have said it really any better than the previous counselor. But I guess just to add on a little bit more from that, though we might not be getting paid, you actually mentioned that we do have food here every single meeting, which is technically a form of monetary value, if you could consider it as such. On top of that, we also do get merch, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of the year as well as the beginning. So, I mean, we might not be getting paid, but we are getting some, I guess, monetary value to a certain extent by taking on the role as counselor. But again, as previously mentioned, that's not really the main purpose of becoming a counselor to begin with. My question basically, sorry, is how exactly would, it's actually the same question as mentioned by the previous counselor, but how would 15% discount on the spoke would make such a difference in this regard?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Honestly, you're right. We get food for meetings. Sometimes it's buffalo chicken, other times it's pretzels with Welch's and juice boxes. It's very subjective. However, I do feel like the merch is also, it's a good point. We do get merch, but 15%. It's what's currently. It's something I pulled from a current guideline that the USC operates on with the coordinators. The coordinators, along with the 15% discount at the spoke, they also receive early access to tickets for Annalie Chapa. He couldn't make it, unfortunately. I saw the execs comment on that. That was kind of sad. But all the performances, the coordinators get pre-access on a lot of things, and we're not asking for all the rights that coordinators get, because coordinators also play a very big role. But a 15% discount.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. Yeah.
Councillor Fody.
Awesome. Hi. Thank you guys for submitting this for discussion. It's super cool to have something from the public here. Like a counselor here. I was just curious. I just wanted to confirm whether, because we use kind of the term counselor, interchangeably, and I just wanted to confirm if this is in regards to all counselors, including our faculty presidents as well, because in that case there are many councils here that presidents do get honorariums themselves, and so adding something on top of that just kind of brings up the question of equitability between counselors in general. So I just wanted to confirm and understand that.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of councils do pay their executives. I heard Dylan trying to shush you over there. I know Triple SC makes a lot gives a lot to their execs. I believe, for execs, this would also apply. They come to these meetings as well. They come to their committee meetings. This is for all of us who give our time and dedicate ourselves to being counselors. Whether you're president of your faculty or not, you're still here. You're still a counselor representing your faculty. So faculty presidents included.
Am I able to say one more thing, or is that after?
Not at this time. I'll give you another opportunity later.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Gandhi.
All right, yeah, so thank you so much for bringing up this motion today, guys. I just think that in general, maybe not comments on the motion specifically, but I think things that we should all be thinking about as counselors in general is just how to increase engagement from students in actually wanting to become a counselor. And I think some other counselors said things about counselors that are running, understanding the role of a counselor and what that entails. And I'll just speak to that on one point. So yesterday at our faculty council meeting, there were certain counselors that came up and explained what they had in mind. A lot of this had to do with programming, which was very surprising to me because a lot of my role as counselor doesn't really have to do with planning programming. It's about advocacy, right? So I think we should all be thinking about how to increase the awareness about what a counselor actually does. And on that note, I do think it is really important to engage the students a little bit more in wanting to become a counselor. For example, myself and Councillor SG were both elected in by-election because no one ran for our positions in the actual election. Currently, the USC counselor position for kinesiology and foods and nutrition is running uncontested. There's no one running in those positions. So there clearly is a problem with student engagement in wanting to be a counselor. So I do think that what you guys are trying to do here in terms of trying to increase engagement with USC and actually wanting to become a counselor is the right thing. You guys are thinking in the right way. I think we might have all of our own individual opinions on if a monetary compensation or a discount is the right way to do that. But I do appreciate your guys' effort to actually make this something that people want to do. And even if it is just simply providing a 15% discount, that's something that can be marketed to increase engagement and increase student involvement and advocacy. And the thing is that being a USC counselor starts as a gateway, right? Me being here, I've learned about other positions, other opportunities for me to get involved. For example, the USA delegation. That's something that I probably wouldn't have heard about unless I was involved as a USC counselor. So I think that any kind of strategy that we can take in order to get students more involved and get a seat at this table is a step in the right direction to getting students as a whole more involved in advocacy. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Yo, I think we should all give a round of applause for that statement right there. I couldn't have said it better. I probably wouldn't have said that at all. Counselor, what you said, it's a great point. Counselor engagement, I feel like, may be at an all-time low. A lot of turnovers have occurred this year. A lot of positions ran uncontested. And that's why this is as an information item. Any other opinions or, different ideas, all welcome, amendments or whatever. It's ideas, please, to help keep this position on the rise and help strengthen our candidacy. Yeah. So thank you, Councillor Gandhi.
Councillor Logaswaran.
Hello? Okay. I'm going to say this as someone who's on the Eng faculty, and I think that historically speaking, we don't really have people run for USC counselor on Eng, and we had to get a by-election to get Mr. Gervier on here, and I think one of those things is this motion is about getting recognition for being a USC counselor. We want people to be on USC because the point of USC is, one of the main points is student advocacy. And I think that it's a great motion to have because I want someone to come after me and be a better counselor than I was, to advocate better than what I'm currently doing, because I think that right now there is some sort of counselor shortage, or there is a lack of interest in people wanting to be counselor. And I think that also ties into the fact that being a USC counselor is a very huge time commitment that everyone here has like varying different studyings of very different, like they have, everyone on this council comes from very different backgrounds, whether it's their faculty, how much time they have in the week to actually give to the USC, and just other general time commitments in general, like having a job, other extracurriculars, that spending maybe like 2 hours here on a Wednesday evening when you could be doing like your physics homework or your kinesiology homework, you have to choose between that. And I think that for me, I want people to come, I want new Eng counselors to come before me and be like advocating for Eng students, but we really don't have that, at least in the Eng faculty, because no one wants to run for the USC counselor, and we're trying to encourage people to run, but still no one wants to run because it's too long of a time commitment. And what recognition do we get? Food for being here in a 2-hour-long meeting that could extend to an extra hour? That's what I have to say.
Oh, yes. Shout out Gervier, man. Eng Council came in clutch. But yeah, I defer my speaking rights to Councilor Betty.
Sorry, I came up here a little bit late. I wanted to address the questions of Councilor Adhikari, sorry, and Councilor Bobkovich. They had mentioned the fact that, like, there might be some better ways to, make people run for USC Council. And, as Councilor Gandhi and Councilor Lucas Warren mentioned, sorry, I'm really bad with names, had mentioned the fact that, like, it's a really great way to incentivize people. I think there's no really any other way in today's world to incentivize other people than with some sort of monetary compensation, whether that be a discount, because people are always, it's a cruel world. People just want money, so being able to give people benefits based on, things that they do at the USC, always going to spoke, I think would be very beneficial in increasing engagement on council. Thank you.
Councillor Lovey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really appreciate the intent behind this motion. I share a lot of the concerns that Councillor Adhikari has towards this. I agree that perhaps in some fashions an engagement strategy is really interesting. My question to you is, do you think a wholly monetary strategy provides the right reasons to be running for a student advocacy role? To me, a forward monetary incentive for something is something that people see, and they don't see the responsibilities associated otherwise. I think in my capacity as chair of one of the standing committees here, there is additional work and there are additional responsibilities in that, and there are additional ways to engage people, but that there's not a monetary excuse me, I lost my train of thought, but there's not a monetary award attached to that. So I guess sort of my question is do you think in your own rationales for having run for council, understanding that it is a volunteer role, would you have run for the same reasons to be advocates if you were looking solely at a monetary kind of value associated with this role?
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Lovey. In my own opinion, 1 billion. Like Artemis, the VP of External of the UES says, 100%. I would continue to hold my position, even though, but the reason I'd hold my position is that we're counselors for a reason. We're counselors because we can push for a change, right? Why hasn't this change been enacted earlier? Who knows, but we're here right now. So it's really all that matters. Additionally, you're right, this is an advocacy position, but so is really the whole exec portfolio. Right, the USC as a whole is the advocacy. We do a lot of advocacy, fact of the matter. And even though they're getting paid, I wouldn't use that to discredit all the advocacy they do, right? So an honorarium at the spoke, 15%. It's not like I'm asking for like $100 million, it's a 50% discount here. But I do understand your concerns. And we would have to do more research into the feasibility of it, but it's something to get started. And that's what I really want to do, get the ball rolling, because that's really all we can do. Get the ball rolling, get a lot of thoughts, get a lot of opinions on this, and I defer my speaking rights to Councilor Betty.
I got put on the spot, so I do not speak.
You don't gotta speak. You don't gotta speak.
Councillor Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And hey, David, first of all, I want to thank you again for introducing this motion. That takes real work. I genuinely appreciate the thought and effort you put into it. We discussed this recently during the recent Finance and Government Committee meeting, and I want to briefly restate, my objections to this motion. So, at its core, I don't believe council members should derive any personal benefit from serving on council. This is a volunteer role. The only meaningful difference between us and our constituents is that we have chosen to take on an added responsibility and a duty of representation. That responsibility, to me, shouldn't come with perks that distinguish us materially from the students we serve. My fear is providing benefits such as access to the Western Purple Card and its associated discounts risks reframing council service as something transactional rather than service-oriented. So even if the benefit seems minor, it introduces a symbolic hierarchy where counselors are seen as, more deserving more than the general student body, and I think that runs counter to the spirit of student governance. Thank you again for your leadership on this and for being open to discussion. That's all from me.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. I do remember our conversation vividly. It's one of the things that I really had to think deep and hardly on after I went to the Board of Governance and Finance. And what I thought after a lot of review is you're right. We're in the same position as our constituents. The only real difference between us and them is that we sit here maybe once a month and go to our committee meetings. But counselors aren't just volunteers. We vote on budgets, we oversee governance decisions, we influence policy and student services, and we act as fiduciaries for membership priorities. So it's yes, we are here for our constituents. However, we have an added role. The food is an add-on, but having something that's already a pre-existing implementation within the USC for the coordinators, it would be a very easy add-on for the counselor portfolio, just a sticker on our USC card, and I think that's the way I'd answer your concerns.
Councillor Thompson.
Hello, thank you. So I just want to add that when it comes to policy formation, when you're drafting policy, you want to be able to accomplish the goal with the greatest impact that you can. And if the goal that's stated by the policy is that you want to engage counselors more, it's been repeated by a couple other counselors that adding discounts is not the most sufficient way to accomplish that goal. And so it should be revised in order to have a better impact. But also, I was reading over the motion that you have drafted, and nowhere in the motion does it actually indicate anything about compensation or what quantity of compensation there is. When you read through it, the only thing that the policy says is that you want to have identification for counselors. But that identification doesn't actually come with anything according to the policy. I understand you're going for a 15% discount, but according to the policy, it doesn't have anything in there. And so by requesting the USC operational leadership to assess the feasibility of it, the only thing we're assessing the feasibility of are the stickers, which doesn't make much sense. And lastly, I believe that we're already eligible for the 15% discount. When I went to the Spoke last week, I told them that I was a USC counselor, and they gave me the discount. I don't know if they're supposed to do that.
They're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to do that.
So don't tell them that I told you guys that. But we're technically kind of already eligible for it. So, but I better not be snitched on by anybody here. Anyways, that's all from me, guys.
Wow. That is fair. I kept it open-ended for a reason. I consulted Dana about this, and originally it was in the draft motion language. However, keeping it open-ended would allow for more conversation about it, whether it be 15%, 5%, 10%, whatever you guys would suggest that seems feasible, we would be able to talk about it. So yes, right now it's only a sticker. It doesn't make too much sense, but that's why it's an information item. We're just talking about it right now. There's no plan on any real, just communicate about this amongst ourselves. And yeah, you kind of ousted yourself there for the 50. We're not supposed to get that, Dylan.
Don't snitch on me, guys.
Okay. But yeah.
Councillor Wasti.
I know, so from our standing committee, we have discussed that we can't do spoke stickers due to governance concerns, as we'd kind of be receiving benefit and we might not hold, let's say, executives or perhaps what they do or perhaps what the spoke does accountable. But while I personally don't need, I guess, more, I don't need more things to kind of encourage me to do my role. But let's say more merch, for example, wouldn't be a terrible idea. We already getting merch. Just as I understand, stickers can't be done. Anything really monetary can't be done. And we currently get food and we already get merch. So just a suggestion would perhaps maybe get more merch. Doesn't have to be perhaps counselor, like the counselor specific merch, but just as something that's nice and fun to just something nice and fun, so people can, just something as an incentive that's nice and fun and isn't something too costly, nor does it affect governance. So something like maybe it's a 60th anniversary US 60 merch.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wasti. And I think, you said it yourself, you don't need anything more. And that's because you're the exemplary councillor. You are, you do a lot. And but, looking holistically amongst us, after I spoke to Kat, I realized there's a lot of concerns. Many concerns. That was a good suggestion. And that's also what I'm looking for here. Suggestions that things that we could do, if not monetary based, that would help promote this role. More merch, 60th year anniversary. I know they were giving out the 60th year anniversary beers in the spoke one time. Maybe we should all get a free sample of that if that was possibly. Never mind. Redact statement. But yeah, there's a lot of things we could do. And I'd like to defer my speaking rights to Councillor Betty.
Thank you, Councillor Wasty. Such a great question, as always. But the reason that me and David came up with this motion was to promote further advocacy. We do understand that there's a lot of great perks and benefits to being a USC counselor. It's great to be here, be with you guys, get usually buffalo chicken wraps or pizza or whatever it may be. But the reason we want to increase maybe some sort of monetary quote unquote compensation would be to advocate for more people to come. And it's not we understand that you love your role and we give you enough food here to keep you here, but we want to focus on other students and bringing more students into the USC so we can have more representation and more advocacy coming in. Thank you.
Before I offer those who spoke already a second chance to speak, is there anyone who has not spoken yet that would like to speak? Please raise your placard and keep them raised. To confirm, I have President Henriquez, Vice President Massey, Councillor Guman, Councillor Megaraja, Councillor Jassy, and Councillor Eshke. Is there anyone else who would like to speak that hasn't spoken yet? Please raise your placard. Councillor Eshke.
Hello. Oh, okay. First of all, thank you for speaking on this. I just wanted to raise a question. As a resident SOF in the previous years and now a faculty SOF, I understand that SOFs get a sticker that allows them to get free beverages or coffees or teas at any residence throughout the year. It's kind of, it's not necessarily like monetary, but in a sense it could be. But do you think that this has any similarities to that in that sense?
Yeah, I do think there are a lot of glaring similarities between this and the SOF. Like, you know, my SOF last year, he'd always come to Saugeen, grab a coffee, head out. You know, it's not monetary, but it is a recognition. It's a thank you for all the work SOFs do. So yeah, I think there are similarities between that and how counselors, we do a lot of work here. It's not really monetary based. It's more of a thank you. Please come back, you know. Thank you.
Councillor Guman.
Another thank you for speaking on this. It's a great idea, but while I agree on the point of bringing more engagement, arts has no one running for president or councillor, an issue that has happened multiple times in the past. Nothing new, but it's unfortunate, and I do see where you're coming from with the incentive for students, but at the same time, I'm very grateful for my role. I'm very grateful for being able to hold this position. I feel very fulfilled and happy. While I do a lot of work for counselor, which all counselors do for our faculty councils and on USC, I just want to say that I think this needs a lot more research, a lot more input and thought on the why, also a lot more thought on actual implementation of it. And also, I just want to understand a little bit of what you think your next steps would be and what you think would be the consensus from just regular students who also are probably concerned about this.
Yeah. To answer I'll start with the first part. First part being going about this and feasibility. Yeah, a lot more work needs to be done in this. Won't lie, but that's why I came here to bring it to you all first. Before I go into it and fully throw it out there, I wanted to understand more about how everyone would feel about this motion passing. Yeah, like it's good. It's good being fulfilled in this role. It's a great role. And yeah, this was more of a get the ball rolling. Like the president of arts faculty and council role. What could we do? What could we do to really help bolster this position to make sure that people want to continue running, people want to return their positions, people want to enter this position? And I guess if not this motion, it gets the ball rolling. It gets the conversation going on a deeper issue that's the USC, this role is really seeing. And your secondary question, which was, what was that secondary question again? I didn't hit it.
Just how you think students will react.
How students would react. Honestly, I don't really believe this would upset students. Like as Councillor Eshke just mentioned, the SOFs already have a program where they get free drinks throughout the entire year. Coordinators have similar at the Spoke where they get a 50% discount. I'm not sure the execs get the discount. You guys can tell me if they get the discount as well. You know, we're a part of the USC. It makes sense that we get a discount at USC restaurants, and yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you.
President Henriquez.
Hey everyone, thanks so much. It's always good to see a counselor-driven motion. I know, David, we've chatted about this, so I'm just going to tell everybody what I've already told you, so you've already heard this. But want to bring it to council, and I know that there's a few more counselor-driven motions in the works, so keep them coming. Hopefully not all based on discounts, but I'll take what I can get. I think, again, like, to repeat everything that everybody has said, like, understand the sentiment, understand where it's coming from, but I just want to outline for council, like, some of the concerns. So when David brought forward this motion, part of the motion is, like, tasking the executive to do a feasibility review, so I just did one anyways, like, so that we could bring it to council. And some of the things that David mentioned that you guys do is you provide oversight to the executive, you vote on the budgets, and those are the exact reasons why discounts can't be offered to counselors. So we don't offer discounts or any kind of monetary compensation to any students who are in oversight roles. So that would be counselors and that would be board directors. And the reason why is because you are to hold us accountable, and we don't want you to ever be in a position where the organization has placed you in a position of bias. And while a discount may not necessarily like seem like that big of a deal, to like Councillor Wasti's point, it is a governance issue at a basal level. If we're offering you something more than the average student gets in your role as like advisors and like accountability, like you hold us accountable, it's like improper from an executive and staff perspective, and it presents a conflict of interest in your roles. Also, just because a discount isn't non-monetary is non-monetary in terms of like not money is exchanging hands, doesn't mean that we don't have to budget for it. So the reason why we're able to offer it to our coordinators and our staff is because it's part of their employee benefits, which we budget for in the corporate budgeting process. For counselors, at a minimum, even though this already violates like a lot of rules of governance, you would have to go to something like a referendum to get full student opinion on if they think that you should get a discount, and we should be using student dollars to compensate for that 15% that you wouldn't be paying. And I would be reticent to, like, as part of a referendum motion, like you have to consult the sitting USC president, and I would be reticent to put forward a referendum where the benefit is exclusively applied to elected officials. And so to sum up, in order not to put you in a position of conflict of interest, in order for you to be able to fulfill your obligations to the students who elected you and the constituents you represent, in holding your executive accountable, and the executive is the link between the advocacy, the operational, and the corporate side of the organization. So you holding us accountable is you holding all those areas accountable. It would not be something that I recommend, and is I told David we could spend a lot of time rethinking, because I think that like there are possibilities to like help counselors feel more empowered in these roles. I don't know that discounts and merch is the way to go, but I do know that Dane is working on 60th merch regardless. So stay tuned for that.
Sorry. That was my bad. Too loud. Yeah, really nothing I can say to that. Yeah, that I guess.
Love the enthusiasm, though.
No, it's a conflict of interest. Yeah, I suppose we have to hold the execs responsible. Merch, I like the idea now. Councilor Wasti, that might be the idea. 60th anniversary merch, possibly. Like this whole motion, understandably, a referendum. Yeah, that wouldn't go through very well. However, it gets the ball moving regardless. Gets the ball moving as to how we can make this role more engaging, how we can retain counselors, how we can really, leave a lasting impact for future counselors. I guess that's the way I would respond to that. Thank you, Press.
No problem.
Councillor Jassy.
Hey, David. So just to restate, like everyone said, I love the intent, kind of the goal behind this idea, and I think that it's really like meaningful. And I think like we need more people. We need a wider range of people in order to operate like more effectively and better represent everyone. And like with this one, like you talked to me about it, and like at first glance, I was completely on board because like why wouldn't I want like 15% off the spoke or something? But like after some more consideration and a lot of valuable points, I do think it's not the best approach or even feasible, like President Henriquez has mentioned. Councillor Wasey's idea, I do think, is a step in the right direction. Like, I think personally, I would totally like be motivated by merch, like to run for something, or just yeah. But anyways, I do think, like, you know, even within like faculty councils, the like counselor position, like USC counselor position, is something that's usually tougher to fill, like compared to like year reps or something. I'm not sure why that is, but so, you know, I do think that this is something we should pursue, and I'm wondering, like, if you've thought of like any, you know, alternatives to do so. Like, for example, like something I was thinking, like just sort of like events or like something like a get together for counselors or something like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I remember when consulting Kat, one of the things she mentioned was possibly having a post January USC election. So when all the new counselors are elected, we have another event like the one we hosted over the summer once we all were together. That's something that I think is pretty feasible. This monetary 50% discount, it's probably not feasible. I'll keep it a buck. It's definitely not feasible. But honestly, it's like there's ideas. There's ideas out here. So having more events for sure. I like that idea. More merch.
It's coming.
It's coming.
I promise.
Okay. More merch, more events. Yeah, and I think this is really great. We came up with something. You know, this motion really was kind of like a front to get this conversation going of how we can keep, you know, counselors here and, yeah, keep this role very engaging. So, thank you, Gravir.
Thank you.
Vice President Bassi.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Councillor Sanyalu. One of my favorite services that I get to be involved with at the USC is the Peer Support Center. We have just shy of 40 individuals who are involved as, I call them peer supporters, but they're just peer support volunteers. So a similar number to the amount of people in our room today. They work a 2-hour shift every week where they're providing care for individuals who come in for support. They go through over 5 full days of training, and as well, a lot of them volunteer for events and boothing and whatnot. All this to say, I haven't even provided them any merch. And we have great turnout from them, and we received 128 applications for those 40 spots last summer. So it's something that people are engaged with, but they don't receive a discount. I should actually probably get them some merch by the end of this year. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes when we're looking at a role, it's not about what benefits does this role confer to me, but what's the meaning behind this, and what value am I getting from this experience? I think a lot of people have touched on some really important points today. We don't have anybody running to fill the seats for BIMS, arts, or music next year. I don't know if we have anybody from Med, Ed, Dent, or Law present. And from the Faculty of Social Science having 7,000 people, we couldn't fill that either. Students will only have a choice on who sits in this council for president in science. And so I think we're recognizing that there's a need to engage with the student body to really show them the values of being a counselor and why this experience can be meaningful and how we make sure it's meaningful. I think what peer support demonstrates to me is that there are a lot of other avenues to do so. But like what I see in you today is a counselor getting engaged with his role, and I think you should be very proud of that.
Speaker, was that the last question?
We have one more.
Okay.
Councillor Megaraja.
All right, is that projecting? Okay, great. First of all, congrats on bringing forward the motion and exercising your agency in the role, and I hope it inspires more counselors to like exercise their agency and bring forward motions. Just to echo a few of the things that have already been said, as Councillor Guman has already mentioned, in our faculty there's quite extremely low interest in engaging with the USC, and so it's clear that students in our faculty at the very least are not receiving much direct messaging from us. Even though the messaging exists, it is not reaching them for some reason. And so I'm unsure of how students would even become like aware of the existence of such a discount. And so the point of like advertising the role seems pretty minimal here compared to the other point you're making, which is recognition of current existing counselors. And regarding that second point, I feel that like just from observing our role thus far, a great deal of budget is already placed in ensuring our happiness and comfort to the point that we're provided with luxuries. Our summer retreat was very fun, great deal of things to do. It was not just basic comfort. We were provided like definitionally luxuries. And I feel like little need to request more luxuries. I appreciate that the luxuries of this role were not advertised directly to me, because I came into this role very naive and slightly mistaken about what my exact responsibilities were, which I think is true for a lot of us. And I am incredibly grateful to have been promptly trained and educated in how my role actually functions and what my responsibilities are. If I were to have come into this role naive and seeking personal benefit, I fear that my onboarding may not have been as effective and educational. And I think it's essential to the ethos of this role that it's advertised and pursued as a volunteer position. I would much rather increase student engagement by promoting like the behind-the-scenes natures of our roles. Perhaps that means we could appear in more USC marketing. I'm not entirely sure everything we could do, but just like making sure we have a greater deal of appearance and visibility to the rest of the student body. I want to primarily incentivize like the ethos of volunteering in this role, and I don't want to expend time, feasibility research, etc., for motions that only affect us and our well-being when we should be doing advocacy for students at large by definition of our role. To do otherwise and to expend a great deal of resources into strictly benefiting us seems really antithetical to the definition, the nature of the role. That's all.
That was very poetic, and I fully agree with you. I do, and I think, yeah. After listening, it's like I feel like I was the exact same when I came into this role. I didn't really know the extent of what I could do. A lot of my platform points when I was running for this role, I was just saying things. I was just saying words. Words were just coming out of my mouth. But I feel like I know more now. And I feel like I'm trying to do a better job at really fulfilling this counselor role. So maybe that's one of the things we could get the ball rolling on. You know, more education to our faculties as a whole as to what counselors do. Possibly that will, engage more of our constituents to continue running. But that's the last question to conclude everything, so y'all can go home. It's like, this was very great at really listening to what everyone's opinion is on this motion. Thank you guys for your opinions. It's been really helpful hearing and understanding how everyone feels about this. And more questions. Okay. I'd like to defer my speaking rights to Councilor Betty.
Well, I thought it would be concluding, but there's more questions coming. But I wanted to say thank you guys so much. I thought we worked very hard on this. So to come out, get all of your opinions was really, really insightful to what we could do. I'm on the same boat where I think I kind of signed up and I was like, okay, time to figure out what I'm doing. And then as the year got better and kept going on, I felt like I got a little bit better at my role. I know how to do my job now a little bit more. So it was really nice. But thank you guys so much for listening to us.
Before I offer those who spoke already a second chance to speak, is there anyone who has not spoken yet that would like to speak? Please raise your placard. Is there anyone who has already spoken that would like to speak for a second time? Please raise your placard. I have Councillor Fody, Councillor Logaswaran, and Councillor Lovey. Is there any other councillor who has already spoken that would like to speak for a second time? Please raise your placard. Seeing there is none, Councillor Fody, we will start with you.
Hi. Thank you. Sorry, guys. I know we all would like to go home. We have some busy schedules. I just wanted to quickly say a lot of the things that I was thinking about, a lot of our councillors already echoed, so I'm not really going to go into that to waste anybody's time. I did just want to mention the fact that I think that I want to mention just like a slight problem with the motion, but I also want to offer a solution because I think that that's the only way that we can actually go forward. And I just want to say that I think that if we did implement something like this, it also would just cause greater discourse within, I think, our own council members in itself. I think that maybe our council members would, I know some of the VP positions within my own council actually take up quite a lot of time that maybe a counselor actually puts in just to be here at these meetings. It's equivalent in terms of the time that they put into their role, and again, that is also voluntary. And so I think that would just raise a lot of discourse and a lot of concerns, I think, within the councils, and therefore that would beg the question of why don't all student leadership positions have compensation? And then that opens up a whole can of worms that I don't think any of us really would like to go into, especially because, as Kat mentioned, this does eat into the budget. And I think as advocates of the USC, I personally, and I think many people maybe share this sentiment, I would prefer that the funds and the money that we're setting aside within the budget should go towards initiatives and that we all are here to advocate for, rather than, you know, money that's going towards our counselors. I just think that initiatives are what we're here for, right? But I did just want to mention the fact that, and I think it's kind of been touched upon now, that I think what might be a solution, because like you said, this kind of just opens up the discussion and what we can really do, because I think engagement is a super, super big issue right now. And I think that something that might be super helpful, something to think about, could be even just having, I know we are often very separated within our faculties, and having some more cross-collaboration between faculties, and maybe like mixer events or whatever within the just councils itself, and opening that up to a wider student body as well, so that people can maybe see what it's like being in these student leadership positions. It could be something as similar to our own summer retreat, right? But opening it up to a wider group of students. Just something I'm thinking about, maybe to get more engagement, to get people maybe thinking about, hey, like, what do they do? I know music would love to probably even just have performers at an event like that. Make it something that we could all collaborate on together, as well as even have speakers. We can even talk about, you know, some initiatives and policies that have gone through that have made really big changes in the university that they actually don't know about. I think little things like that would really make a difference. Could even be like advertised as like an elections fair, so to speak, where we have little like booths and we're all chatting and we explain kind of what our roles are like and why they maybe are important to us. I think one thing that we often devalue is human connection, and I think that when we tell people this is why it matters to us, this is why we are taking our time and volunteering, I think that's going to hit people a lot harder and make them want to be in a position like this, rather than have something that incentivizes them to do so. So just something to think about, and I'm happy to collaborate with that on something like that with you as well, to think further.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. I'll definitely reach out afterwards. I'd like to defer my speaking rights to the speaker for the next question.
Councillor Lagaswaran.
Not going to take up too much people's time, but I really like Counselor, what's your name? Bobby? Yeah. Thank you.
No worries.
I really think now the question becomes, how do we engage people to actually like run for USC Counselor? Because I was actually sitting here and just thinking about it. I think one way that could be of use, and one idea I wanted to bring up, was that just have like counselors like appear on the social media page, or just have like a day in the life on your Instagram story being like, day in the life of a USC counselor, like here's my 8:30 class and then I'm going to like a meeting or something. And I think that's one way to engage people, because I do see some of the student senators actually do that, like they post their day in their lives on the Instagram stories, and I think that's a great way to figure out like, how do I get involved, or just ask questions, or like if there's like multiple questions you're getting about counselor, be like, post on your Instagram story and be like, what do you do as a counselor in your day-to-day? I review motions. I review agendas. You can be as brief or as like in-depth as you want to be. And I think those are great ways to get involved. Those are great ways to encourage people to get involved on USC Counselor. And that was something I was trying to post on my story, and then I kind of forgot. But I think that's a great way to get involved, or like to engage people to actually get involved on USC, because I think the greatest strength that the USC has is its student engagement, and I think that's something that really needs to come in the next few years.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Lagaswaran. Looking at our VP Student Engagement SOD, day in the life, counselor. So yeah, we'll make a sheet. We'll start signing up. We'll get down the USC page soon enough. Okay, yeah, like the first speaking rights to the speaker.
Councillor Lovey.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, councillors, for again exercising your agency. I think the intent here is really clear, and I think you've opened a really important conversation about this. I do want to thank councillors. Councillor Megaraja and Vice President Massey for reminding us, I think, of the ethos of these volunteer positions and the care that goes into them. One thing that I really expressly do want to illustrate to Council, and I think provide a last bit of thanks on, is that there is quite a bit of work that goes on here behind the scenes. And I do want to expressly thank Dane, the food team, and those who are here providing for our comfort, for our leisure, for our participation here. I think there's been a lot of conversation about those services in the conversations around this motion, and I want to make sure that those services that are provided and those comforts that we are provided through these roles do not go unappreciated and do not go unrecognized. So I would say a round of applause for what exists currently right now. So. Thank you.
I'd like to echo that point. One more round of applause for everyone that makes what council is council.
Is there anyone who would like to speak that has not spoken once? Is there anyone who would like to speak twice that has not spoken twice? Let's give a round of applause for the first councillor-driven agenda item of the year. That concludes this discussion item. Moving on to questions and comments from the Western community. Are there any questions and comments from the Western community? Please raise your hand. Does any member of council have any new business? New business must be time sensitive and require an action. Before I adjourn, councillors, on behalf of Vice President Ahmed, please fill out the correspondence dinner RSVP by Sunday night, which can be found in the announcements tab on Slack. I motion to adjourn this meeting. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Bogatti. Are there any objections? The time is now 9 p.m. This meeting is now adjourned.